Absolutely. From the Hill Country in Texas, this is OneRadioNetwork.com.
Talk to Patrick now, 888-663-6386. Or email patrick@oneradionetwork.com.
Well, there's no doubt that you get analysis here and source material that I don't think you get anywhere else in the interweb. Andrew-Gause in the Real World of Money every Wednesday. Right here, please pass on these links to everyone that you care about. Visit Andy on his Facebook page and like it. Visit us on One Radio Network Facebook page and like that. And then when you like it, it shows up in, I don't know, Queen of England's mailbox or something. It's a little bit after the hour two of our show. Come on in and join us. 888-663-6386. Phone lines are always open. 888-663-6386. Email patrick@oneradionetwork.com. Live here June 24, 2015. Podcast will be up by noon or so, Central Time, and have a chance to pass it around. The link, patrick@oneradionetwork.com. Linda writes in, or Diane rather, my financial advisor wants me to rent bonds instead of buying them. Can you explain what this is about? I don't quite understand exactly what he's doing. I would be for no longer than 9 months. What are the tax consequences for doing this?
Yeah.
Renting bonds.
Yeah, it's a derivative. It's essentially a derivative transaction. It's a repo, a repurchase agreement. And you know what? That works great as long as the person that you're renting the bonds from holds up. If they don't hold up, if the idea of the rent of the bond is a repo. Okay, so
repurchase agreement.
So you're going to give us the bond, we're going to give you the money, and then a year from now you agree to buy the bond back for a fixed amount. There's your rented bond. So you don't really own it, you're renting it. And as long as the counterparty is there, first of all, incidentally, I would run away from a guy who suggested that to me.
Would you?
Here's how I think you could really make a lot of money, Andy. Take your credit card, go to the bank, borrow all the money that it'll give you, and then go bet black on the third spin in Las Vegas. Well, yeah. Yeah. It comes up red. What happens? Well, or green. Or he's going to show you some way where you can make a bet that there's no way to lose unless the entire bond system defaults and then the person that you rented the bond from is unable to buy it back from you, in which case you're left holding it. And what is your option? Well, you could sell it to get your money back. And how much do I lose? Well, most of your money. Do not participate in the derivatives market with more than 10% of your total investment portfolio. Like, okay, if you want to gamble like that, do it. But the guy who's suggesting that you do that with the bulk of your portfolio is really not looking out for your best interest.
Okay. Email patrick@oneradionetwork.com. In Dallas, Mark writes, ask Andy, can Greece play hardball and threaten to walk away from EU and NATO, instead embrace China and Russia as primary bankers and trading partners?
They did that this morning.
Oh,
the ECB came out and said, look, if we don't come to a deal, we're not going to have a choice. We got to, I said ECB, Greek Finance Ministry.
Yeah.
Said, if we don't come to a deal, we're going to have to walk away from the euro. That's that Grexit that everyone's talking about, and the Eurozone. So we're out if we don't come to a deal. The statement is pretty startling. It's like you're either going to, it's the ultimate, the nuclear option. You either do what I say or I'm leaving this relationship. And that's, it's never a good way to negotiate with your significant other. And in this case, this is how Greece is being viewed by the central bank of Europe, which is, so you're going to leave the marriage unless I agree to whatever. Under duress. Okay. We can see how this is going to work out. 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, when I was talking about buying tangible assets, particularly coins, I don't know if you want to call this a commercial or not, but the idea was that, if you can't see it, you can't seize it, and personal property is very difficult to tax. So I think this is why the Rothschilds put a third of their wealth into, art objects, to art antiques, old things that are property, personal property, which is very difficult to tax. So taxing your financial instruments is easy.
Easy peasy.
Oh, man. And it's getting easier.
We got it right here. Let's see. What's your social? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, here's what you got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But so I have today I have an 1855 New Orleans $5 gold piece. One of 20. What is it worth? What could it be worth? It's an AU58 that NGC grades it. Is it worth $15,000? Might be. Is it worth $25,000? Might be. And so if you're the taxing authority, how are you going to judge the value of this thing? It says $5 on it. So I can carry it on my books as $5, and you can't really argue with me until I sell it for more. So personal property like this, your couch, your art, your Hummel collection, your silverware, your old car. Well, your old car's registered, you know. It's not that hard to tax that because we know where they all are. We know you own them. It's registered.
Like even a 48 Chevy or something like that?
It's still registered. Mm-hmm. And we know that it's an antique automobile. You've got QQ plates on it. So we could conceively say $1,000 tax on a QQ plate. Right, we could conceivably do that because each one is registered. But if we suddenly said, we're going to put a tax on 55 $5 gold pieces. A, how are you going to find them? And B, how are you going to judge the worst one from the best one? And how can you make a tax all the way through? So this type of personal property that is not registered and is liquid and is easy to buy and sell is the ultimate protection against all of this. And I think the people of Europe are starting to recognize that there's a run on coins in Europe. I've heard stories already of difficulty in achieving and getting the types of coins that we recommended to our European listeners last year and the year before. So as more and more people throughout the world start to recognize the pickle that we're in, I think they're going to be rushing to these sorts of assets. And I would pay close attention to the value of any personal, tangible property that's easy to buy and sell.
I think it was a commercial. If you'd like to talk to Andy, it is at 800-468-2646. Very interesting. Very interesting, the idea of just owning real property and the way things are going with all the laws being passed.
And the monetization.
And the laws being passed to possibly bail in people's bank accounts.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this is not black helicopter stuff.
No.
This is
happening now.
This is in people. It's happening now. And it's in people's future. Well.
And again, not just in Greece.
No. I mean, worldwide.
China.
Worldwide.
Yeah, China in the debt markets now, doing the same kind of stuff that everybody else is doing. So I would keep a close eye on everyone that's in this position. Now, what is the response of the central banks? And it's always one of two. It's either A, hey, we're not doing anything, you're done. That's the collapse view, where the banks the central banks of the
throw
world
up their hands in. We're done.
That's it. We're done. We're not issuing any new money. We're not monetizing any debt. If you owe somebody money and you can't pay, they're in trouble. And that's it. And it dominoes its way down. And that's the deflationary spiral that everyone is fearful of. And, of course, it ends with a monetary collapse. But central banks don't do that. That's, believe it or not, healthy. What they do instead is monetize debt. And so the debts of the Greek banks alone, right, if something like $80 billion we discussed, that has been monetized. So the Greek banks were unable to pay their depositors. And then what does that force them to do? Whatever money they've invested in, mortgages, bonds, whatever, loans to companies and businesses and individuals, they have to sell all of those assets. And in the process, drive down the value of those very same assets and make it impossible to get a loan and so on and so forth. So that starts the ball rolling. So what the central banks choose to do instead, okay, we'll create another $80 billion. Now, what does that necessarily do to the value of the already existing money? It reduces it. Small in the first, but still it's a reduction. So where there was $800 billion, now there's $880 billion. And now we have to do it again. Now there's 960. And as that supply of money grows, the value of the assets grows with it. It takes more of that percentage of money to buy these particular assets, and they're exempt really from confiscation and taxation because if you can't see it, you can't seize it. They can't come into your house and take the Van Gogh painting off your wall. That is really the only and ultimate protection.
This is Patrick Timpone. He's Andrew Goss, and you're you. And this is One Radio Network and the Real World Money. Well, the final, let's see if I can find it, final GDP numbers are out. Let's see.
Are they sure they're not going to be revised?
No, this is final. Minus 0.02% for the past quarter.
Same as last year.
Same last year at this time. That's not. We need to sell something.
How's that expansion going?
We need to sell something.
How's that recovery?
All this QE, Andrew Goss, all this money printing, and look what they're getting for it.
Yeah, they're keeping us alive. That's it. Remember,
they're keeping the doors open.
That was all that it was ever intended to do. It wasn't. It was just to prevent a collapse. It wasn't to stimulate or to grow the economy.
Just to keep it.
Just to keep the doors open, keep the lights on, and that's what we've managed to do. And P, remember, the new monetary
potential money
continues to grow.
Yes,
it continues to grow, and so P, the potential that the Federal Reserve or other central banks of the world will monetize a debt instrument of one form or another, continues to grow. And so, $80 billion to Greece now. Hey, listen, Puerto Rico, I'm saying it again. They've got $72 billion in debt, and if they can't restructure it, it's all coming due like this summer. That's why, again, the fall tsunami. Boy, this summer is just going to be interesting in every arena.
Isn't this Greek thing going to be keeping gold prices down? I was following the bouncing ball thinking this morning, well, if they do more QE, which they're going to do in Europe and whatever to keep Greece going, right, the euro would actually go down in value, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. And then the dollar would go up, and then gold and silver would go down.
Yeah, well, it's not going to do you any good to throw here's your sports analogy.
Yeah.
I'm not a sports fan, but everyone seems to understand.
Yeah.
If you're going to throw that long bomb Hail Mary, then you better make sure you got a lot of blockers out there. And the very first thing I would do on the news that this week is send some shorters out there in the gold market. How's that looking? I need a block. So you get out there and short, $1 billion worth of gold so that the price goes down. Can't have people thinking that that's the place to put their money.
Oh.
So
that's what they do.
Without blockers out there, what good is throwing a long bomb?
Mm-hmm.
So you can bet that they've got their blockers in place. And if you, again, I'm not a chart watcher or a day trader, but I'm sure there are listeners out there who are. You tell me, was there any shorting of gold? Was there a huge gold short position? And if there was, that's probably the block.
There was $500 million this morning.
How many?
$500 million in short positions, and I think it happened in about 20 minutes. And one website said this was after the GDP numbers came out. Yeah. That's what they do, right?
Well, you send a block out.
Send a block out.
You're going to pass. You're going to make that pass. Hey, oh God, we're going to put out these GDP numbers. They're going to be awful.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get a block out there because the general tendency would be, what would happen? Dollar would go down, gold would go up. Yeah.
But they do $500 million and just
in gold, and perhaps
yeah.
I would look in dollar arena as well and see, what kind of activity happened there. Was there someone taking a long position in dollars at the corresponding trade?
Man, this is
science is what it is, Patrick.
Well, it's worse than Vegas. At least in Vegas, if you know Uncle Tony, you might get something. But now you don't know what's going on.
You might get a shrimp cocktail.
You might get a shrimp cocktail and free room or something. But now, who knows what's going on? Boy, it's a tough world out there for investors, I guess.
Yeah, and if you don't understand the scheme, and if you can't, like that person that whose financial planner suggested they rent bonds. Here's the question to the financial planner. How do I lose money in this trade? How do I lose money? And if you're not told this is how you could lose money, and if the answer is there's no way to lose, it's a winner said dead winner, run away. Run away. I must know how I can lose money. It's like when I tell people, hey, you buy gold coins, you buy rare gold coins, you put them away in the vault. How do I lose money? A, you sell them before it's time, or B, someone takes them from you. In both instances, you lose money. That's it. And if you can't be shown how you could lose money in a trade, I would urge you to find another trade.
Mm-hmm. Here's an email from George. Can you ask Andrew to comment on this from Paul Craig Roberts? A country without its own money is not and cannot be an independent country.
If your money's a slave, you're a slave.
Do we have our own money, or is it the banker's money? look at Greece, for example. The Greek people are driven to buy into the ground by the EU. He's talking about exactly what you did.
Yep.
Obviously, the Greek population, Paul Craig Roberts says, is so thoroughly brainwashed about the necessity of being part of the EU
Right.
that the population is willing to be economically dispossessed rather than leave the EU. Thus, the Greeks have forfeited their sovereignty and their independence.
Yeah, Paul Craig Roberts and I
pretty cool.
are drinking from the same cup.
And it's
Yeah.
not been poisoned.
No.
It's not Kool-Aid.
And he's a former Fed guy. isn't
Yeah,
he?
he's a cool guy.
He's a
Yeah,
big
we
guy.
like him. He's
not some backwater coin dealer
no.
from New Jersey.
No, he's not. He gets it, man. Yeah, he gets it. Yeah. Let's see. I've heard someone suggest that to get the economy producing again, the government could simply give $1 million. What? $1 million to every citizen with the stipulation that each recipient must first use the money to pay off all their debts. Soon it would be hard to find a big screen TV or truck to buy in America, and the economy would take off with lots of jobs and production created. Do you and Andy agree it would only cost a couple $100 million, a relatively small amount compared to most government programs? Well, I don't know. They may have something
Oh,
here.
yeah, no, definitely got something. Of course, the big screen TV will cost $100,000, but you'll still be able to be able to buy one.
300 million people at $1
$1 million each.
That's only $300 million.
No, that's $1 each, Patrick.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, God. Okay, 300 million times $1 million is what?
Oh, I don't have a calculator that goes that high.
Hold on. I used to have one of those.
300 trillion, I think.
No. It wouldn't be that much, would it?
Yeah.
Okay, I got one of the big calculators. I'm going to do it during the commercial, and I'm going to tell us what that is.
But okay, so there's nothing wrong with that plan except everything. So you wipe out the personal savings of the entire country. It is wiped out. Your personal savings are wiped out. But theoretically, that's made up by the housing ownership. Your house would, you're going to add 3 zeros to everything. Everything is going to go up like crazy. So, for the savers, for the debtors, that'll be great. You pay off all your debts are paid. But for the savers, man, not good.
Okay.
Everything you saved your entire life has just been wiped out in a single stroke.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have any personal property, if all your money is, I'm using my air quotes here, in the bank, well, I mean, you're in the worst possible position because your entire life savings is wiped out. And now you're given money that might make up your losses, but doubtful that it will. What I think is curious about this whole suggestion is no one's asking where the money came from. If they did, they would recognize that the government has the power to create money. It should just take that away from the Federal Reserve.
Okay, 300 million Americans by $1 million is 300 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12
trillion
zeros. Is that a trillion?
I'm afraid it is.
Ooh, yeah, that's a trillion. No, maybe just 1,000 or 10,000, something like that.
Yeah, there goes the effectiveness of the plan. Maybe 100,000. Okay,
300 trillion. Yeah, that would be
maybe,
that would be too much.
Maybe we do just 100,000 instead of $1 million, and then it'll be 30 trillion. Either way, this would be like a fast forward of what they're already doing.
Yeah,
See, every
this
time,
is just that on steroids.
Yeah, it's
right?
just changing the injection points. So we've talked about the injection points in the past, where the Fed chooses to inject the money. If you recall when the bailout was being unfolded, I said, hey, why don't we just send $5,000 to every single taxpayer? So you filed a tax return last year, here's a $5,000 check. That would have been less than the bailout, see, and probably would have had the effect of not making the stock market zoom to unnatural proportions, but Main Street would have continued along. People would have made their mortgage payments. They would have fed their families. They would have it would have stretched it out a little bit, which may have prevented the crisis from gaining traction. But they chose a different injection point where, well, let's inject it directly into the banks. And what did they do with the money? Well, of course, they poured it all into Wall Street. And that's why Main Street was bypassed. If you injected the money in Main Street, a portion of it would have healthily made its way to the stock market. So the taxpayer that had the $5,000 and said, oh, this is extra money, I think I'll put it in my IRA account or put it in my brokerage account. that might have made its way there. But the majority of Americans would have spent that money, would have kept one more store open, would have saved one more house from foreclosure, and so forth. And I believe would have kept the economy going to the point where it would have been much more effective than giving the money to the banks.
Here's an interesting asterisk on the GDP numbers, which are really punky. The change in real private inventories added 45 basis points to the first quarter change in real GDP.
Right.
Wow. Private businesses increased inventories on $100 billion in the first quarter.
Yep.
So they're loaded up, man. We're going to have some Christmas sales.
Well, no, it was different. It's actually the reverse of that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I read that correctly?
No, you read it correctly. But what had been happening up to this point is that private businesses were not increasing inventories. If you went to your typical store and said, I need this typical thing, and they might say, we're out of stock. We don't have that. Well, we didn't order that. But we have a few of these left.
Just in time. Kind of thing, yeah.
Inventories have drained. Businesses, in order to continue to fund their operations, have sold inventory without replacing it.
I see. Yeah. That's what's going on.
Yeah, and so now opening the first quarter, they go, okay, well, the holiday, the buying season is coming, summer, driving, so on and so forth. So now is the time that we increase our inventories. Without that inventory increase, GDP would have been actually negative, even greater than it is. Almost 3, 2.5.
Okay. Now, what would an election season be without Donald Trump?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, listen, I'll leave your mic open if you want to comment or tell me to stop or anything.
The country's in trouble. We have a big fat bubble coming up. You watch. We have artificially induced low interest rates. We have a stock market which has benefited me, but we are in a bubble like you've never seen before.
Explain.
Probably we have 20% unemployment, not 5.6%. So I just think the country is doing terribly. We're being ripped off by everybody, every country, including China, big league. We are in an economic financial bubble, in my opinion. It's got to be fixed fast. We owe $18 trillion. I would say going to $20 trillion mark pretty quickly. You look at what's going on. Without proper leadership, I predict you're going to see some very, very bad things happening economically. You probably have a 20% unemployment rate. You have interest rates. I borrow money like I'm building the old post office. You pay like nothing. They give you free money. Now, that's bad. That's not good. And who gets hurt? The people that save their money, Joe. Yeah. They saved their money. They did it the way you're supposed to. For 30 years, they saved their money. Always say, now they go to the bank, they're getting 0.25%, on their savings. Those are the people, the middle class in this country has been
That's what I want to ask you about. So what policies would you put in place? What changes would you make to try and help lift up the middle class in ways that has not been accomplished before, specifically?
The biggest thing we have to do is new trade agreements. China is killing us. Mexico is killing us. Japan is killing us. Everybody is beating us. We have incompetent people negotiating trade. We are losing money at every single step. We don't make good deals anymore.
Give us an example.
China and all of these people. Mexico is the new China, by the way. Mexico is unbelievable what they're doing with cars and with industry. They are taking our business like we're a bunch of babies. We don't have our best and our brightest negotiating for us. We have a bunch of losers. We have a bunch of political hacks. We have diplomats. Joe, let me give you an example. Carolyn Kennedy. I see 60 Minutes. She goes in, she says to the White House, oh, I'd love a job. Well, would you like to be ambassador to Japan? Really? Wow. She's like a negotiator for us in Japan. It's ridiculous. Japan is doing a number on us with the yen. They just devalued the yen yet again.
What's your position on the issue of whether or not to raise the minimum wage?
I would say leave the minimum wage. That's not the problem, Mika. Whether somebody's getting an extra. The problem is we have to create jobs.
On what they're being paid.
The problem is we have to get jobs in the country. The jobs are being taken by Mexico and by China. The jobs are being taken by India.
Well, you got to vote for that guy. Jeez.
John, well,
I'm in, right?
Right. And
I mean, what's to argue with that?
Tariff revenue.
Yeah.
Tariff.
Now, he didn't say tariff revenue.
He didn't have to. He said trade deals.
Trade deals.
Historically, throughout the period until the adoption of the Federal Reserve Bank. Yeah. Curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
But until the Federal Reserve was in place, the majority of government revenue, the majority, came not from a federal income tax, but from tariffs. 95% of everything that the government took in came from tariffs.
Tariffs.
So if you're
It's
China,
amazing. That's amazing.
If you're China and you want to dump your products here, well, you have to pay a tariff. And how do we adjust the tariff? Well, we adjust it according to what it's doing to American jobs. Now, ever since they started giving us these trade deals in 1945 or so, post World War II, like, okay, we've taken over the world, and now we're going to give you some manufacturing jobs. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to drop the tariff from your country, and that's going to, of course, cost us jobs. But American workers, rank-and-file union members, didn't recognize or realize what was going on. Until 1955 or 60, you drive around in this country, good luck finding a foreign car. They were all made in the United States. Cars all over the world were made in the United States. Great jobs, great living, great ability to improve your social standing and your economic standing in the United States. You get a good factory job. You didn't need 8 years of college to make a living. You just needed to develop skills. And anyone who tried to put slave labor in place to make the products cheaper would find themselves on the end of a tariff. We've imprisoned a bunch of people here in Southeast Asia, and we're forcing them to build cars. And, of course, we can build them a lot cheaper, and then we're going to put them on a boat and ship them to the United States. The moment they landed, a tax equivalent to the value of that slave labor was placed right on them. And, while you're at it, place a tax on them that coincides to the environmental goals that you've set for American business. So you're going to force an American company to spend $1 billion to clean up their impact on the environment, then you can't let a country allow its industry to replace that pollution because it affects us all. So what do? You put a tax on them equivalent to the cost of, if that's truly your environmental goal. Instead, what we do is nothing. 0% tax. We have no tariffs on anything. Revenue from tariffs in the federal government are less now than they were 100 years ago.
It's amazing.
It's like, come on.
And, to really put a cherry on the top of that one, yesterday the Senate voted to advance Obama's partnership agreement agenda.
How many
fast
votes
track,
is this?
60. Yeah, the final passage is expected to be in the Senate on Friday.
And it's curious what they put in.
This is a corporate coup d'état, man.
Yeah, it is.
They're just unbelievable. Yeah, that these people could vote, and the Republicans are voting for it.
Yeah, they are.
The Republicans are voting for it.
They are. Well, all I know is that in 1910, tariff revenues were about 35% of our budget.
35%, 1910.
Yep, 35%.
And what are today?
1%.
No kidding. It's a shame.
Well, who pays for the cost of maintaining this market, of maintaining the FDA and the, pick your alphabet soup agency? All of that is funded by the income tax. The ability of China to have a market to even dump its products into is paid for by the American taxpayer, and then paid for again by having to give up our jobs. So, man, I'm not a free trade kind of guy. I'm a fair trade kind of guy. So if you're going to sell me your products, I'll sell you my products. And if that works out and balances, okay. But there's no way it's going to be such a one-sided deal. Donald Trump is right. Every deal we've ever made has been one-sided. And it's so obvious and blatant now that they've separated this new trade agreement into two components. Did you notice? The first one was, we're going to provide funds for worker retraining. Why?
Right. Yeah.
Well, because we're going to have a lot of displaced workers. Really? Why? I thought exports are good for business. No, they're not. They're good for a few businesses, and that's it. The rest of us suffer. So you want to put America back to work? It's easy. You go right to the border, and you slap some serious tariffs on anything that comes in here. A, the revenues of the nation will increase without an increase in the income tax, and B, and most importantly, American manufacturing will start up again. As, hey, we can make it cheaper than that, and that's what we'll do.
Well, Donald Trump's polling second in New Hampshire, and if he keeps talking like this, he could have, like lightning strike him on a golf course.
I'm voting for Donald Trump.
You got to be
Donald's
careful,
my
man.
guy, man. He's just wacky enough, I guess. I've looked at the field. They're all seasoned politicians. I've been watching Donald Trump since 1981, and
he's a business guy. I mean, he's crazy, but who cares?
Crazy. He's full of himself. He's got plastic hair, and you can say anything bad about him you want. But If I want anybody running my nation, let it be that guy, because I don't think he'll do it to enrich himself. And at the same time, I mean, that is a valid point, isn't it? He did make that point at the press conference. Everybody said, oh, he's bragging. No, he isn't. He's saying, hey, I'm not going to steal. I don't need to steal.
That's what he said. He goes, I'm not going to steal.
I'm not going to be. If you look at every president, what did Obama do in the private sector before he became president?
I don't know.
Nothing. And he's leaving office like his predecessor, Bill Clinton. Rich, filthy rich, filthy bleeding rich. And, how many politicians? Richard Nixon, name them. They go into the presidency poor or, relatively, and they come out rich. How do they do that?
How do they do that? Eh?
They do that by enriching themselves. And I think Mr. Trump would not be so inclined.
All right.
He might enrich his buddies.
Yeah, he could. Previously with Daniel Vitalis, ladies, testosterone, estrogen, and pine pollen.
People often think of testosterone as something that's specifically for men, but it's important to remember that men and women use testosterone in their metabolism, and men and women use estrogens in their metabolism. You can think of testosterone and the other androgens as being really critical to that sense of willpower and that sense of motivation and drive that we all have, that goal-orientedness that we all have. And you can think of those substances as helping our body to stay anabolic or regenerative. So both men and women require testosterone in their metabolism so they can continue to regenerate their body and so that they have that sense of well-being and happiness that only comes when we have sufficient levels of testosterone in our bodies.
Okay, ladies, there you go. Regardless of how many times you've been around the sun, maybe something worth exploring for your hormones. Exclusively from Surthrival, Daniel Vitalis. Any of these Surthrival links, click and order OneRadioNetwork.com.
Hi, my name is Annette, and due to menopause symptoms for nearly 2 years, I suffered severe hot flashes, which prevented me from sleeping all night. It was so hard to work because I continued all day to have the hot flashes from hell. I was exhausted and depleted. After only 3 weeks on One World Way, I have no hot flashes, and I'm sleeping normally again. I feel energized and strong. This is an amazing product.
The new frontier in human nutrition will be the exploration of how foods and herbs epigenetically affect our cells. Epigenetics is the study of how the DNA of the cell can be signaled to function in a whole new manner. It is already known that certain herbs change cells for the better via the epigenetic signaling system. This means that with proper signaling, you can feel younger, stronger, and even live much longer. The quality of the whey used in One World Whey is of a caliber that we believe is positively affecting the cells of your body via that epigenetic signaling system. You can order One World Whey here at OneRadioNetwork.com. That's OneRadioNetwork.com.
Dr. Stephanie Seneff, Senior Research Team, MIT, answers a question from one of our listeners.
There were certain things that would help us to clear these things out and help the body to begin heal.
I think sulfur. I think eating a great deal of sulfur-containing foods and also soaking in Epsom salt baths, because you need to beef up your sulfur supply in order to generally be able to fight, to allow your liver to heal. So you're sort of, once your liver can heal, then you can detoxify, so you really need to work on getting the liver healthy, and one of those crucial issues for that is the sulfur. Those enzymes are affected by all kinds of different toxic chemicals, and glyphosate prevents the body from disposing of those chemicals because of disrupting. Glyphosate actually really disrupts the sulfur cycle in a big way. It interferes with sulfate transport. Of course, it doesn't allow the activation of vitamin D, and vitamin D protects you from sulfate flushing through the kidneys.
Sulfur, sulfur, sulfur. We love it. Pure organic sulfur. 3 prices, United States, Canada, and worldwide. Click and order 24/7 right here. OneRadioNetwork.com.
Nothing is more expensive than bad information. Know the source. OneRadioNetwork.com. Talk to Patrick now. 888-663-6386. Or email Patrick at OneRadioNetwork.com.
Talk to Andrew-Gause now. He's a currency historian. He's working on his 3rd book. What's the name of it? The working title, Andrew, is?
A Monetary History of the United States.
A Monetary History of the United States. Get right to it. You just don't beat around the bush, right? And he is a currency historian. 2 books, Secret World of Money and Uncle Sam Cooks the Books, as we're live here every Wednesday with Andrew. We're live every morning, 9 to 11 o'clock. Richard Massey, Meridian Grace, 2 holistic healthcare practitioners will be in the studio here in the morning. We'll have some fun, and we'll talk to you. If you have questions about your health, just jot them down and get the emails to me, patrick@oneradionetwork.com. Plenty of time for more emails for Andrew here on this Wednesday morning. Same email, patrick@oneradionetwork.com or 888-663-6386. Mr. Goss from John, how much longer do you think housing interest rates will remain low? Aside from yourself, who else is worth listening to? Joel Scosine, Gerald Salente, thoughts, John in Maryland.
I like Jimmy Rogers.
Jimmy Rogers,
yeah. Certainly like
we
Paul
like
Craig
Jim.
Roberts.
Yep.
Yeah. How much longer? Wait, let me get my crystal ball out.
Interest rates.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to me that there will be any attempt to raise interest rates except in response to a fall in the value of the dollar. So if you're in the housing market, and let's say that you are considering the purchase of a house, the idea that rates would go lower from here versus higher from here, I think the odds are higher more than lower. So, and you can always refinance if it goes down a little more. But the increase in interest rates will only be in response to a decrease in the value of the dollar, which will be positive for real estate values. So it's kind of like offsetting each other. And whether you wait or not, I think depends largely upon your specific conditions, your circumstances. But if you're able to buy a house now, I wouldn't wait much longer.
Just kind of go ahead and get her now.
Yeah, go do it, yeah.
Get her now. Get like a 60-year fixed mortgage or something.
Yeah, if you can. Because waiting for rates to go lower, even if they go lower, versus the risk of the housing market exploding, which I think is a very, very real possibility right now.
This is kind of a pertinent question because reading yesterday that a lot of the places, because of the thing that happened in, was it Charleston or somewhere?
Charleston, South Carolina, yeah.
They're Walmart and other places are not selling the Confederate flag, right?
Yeah, they're taking it off the General Lee, I understand.
They're taking off what?
The Dukes of Hazzard was a very prominent television series in which the car that they drove was a Charger, a Dodge Charger with the Confederate flag on the roof. And, most certainly it has become an icon in the South. Yeah. And the people that own the rights to that, I think it's Mattel, are going to take it off.
Well, I was listening to a talk show yesterday in Austin driving around, and the people, this whole thing about this shooting, of course, which is tragic. But, see, I never thought about the Confederate flag. Some people argue that the Confederate flag is a symbol for white supremacy. That's what this whole thing about with this not selling the flag, right?
Well, before
before
the Nazis adopted the swastika, it was a symbol of good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Oh, good luck.
So the Nazis adopted the swastika, and now suddenly the swastika is a racist image. Curious. But yeah, the battle flag of the Confederacy obviously was representing the Confederacy. Obviously.
Yeah, it was just it was
the flag of the nation.
The nation, their nation of the South.
Yeah, now I believe Austin is flying the Confederate flag, isn't it?
Oh, they do. Yeah.
Yeah, because all five, right? I think you have the Mexican flag, don't you? Have the U.S. flag, you have the Texas flag.
Texas flag and the Confederate flag, I think.
Confederate flag. All five of the rulers of Texas at one point or another have their flags in the air. Mm-hmm. Now, will that mean that, that flag should come down because it's been adopted as a symbol of racism
by some racist people?
Some racist people?
Yeah, it doesn't kind of weird.
Doesn't say anything to me. I know that South Carolina has come a long way in race relations, and one kook notwithstanding, there are black senators and plenty of representation. And I think there was a time when even the populations of some of these southern cities were majority black. So to suggest that now the historical flag of that nation. I would be proud of it instead. Like, hey, we took this flag. I would adopt it the other way. This is now a flag representing us because we overcame and took over, so to speak. So.
From North Carolina, Brooke writes, my brother teaches American history at college level, and the Civil War is one of his specialties. We got into a discussion the other day, and he stated the Civil War was about slavery. End of story.
It was not.
I remember hearing Andy say that
absolutely
the war was started over trading and tariffs. It seems to make sense to me.
It is.
Because it seems like the big events in history, it turns out to all be about money.
Always.
Could Andy shed any more light on this to provide some names and good books about the Civil War are primary sources to look at? He wants to talk with his brother some more.
Yeah.
Civil War history about slavery. My goodness.
Good luck.
In college.
Good luck, because, this is what we are taught, and this is what they will continue to teach. Nothing about states' rights or, rights of the federal government over the states and so forth. No, I wish I could recommend some good books. Unfortunately,
isn't there
the
Real Lincoln?
The Secret. Yeah, Real Lincoln.
The
is
Real
good.
Lincoln's a good one.
And the Secrets of the Federal Reserve is another good one. The fact that Abraham Lincoln did not abolish slavery until after the war was well started, and then curiously only in territories that had seceded from the Union. So yeah, okay, South Carolina secedes from the Union, so now I'm going to outlaw slavery in South Carolina, but nowhere else, just in South Carolina. The tying of slavery to the Civil War, I think, was ill-advised. And now to suggest, this much later, that it is the cause of the Civil War? I don't think so.
So you've told us that the cause, if I understand, the South was getting their fanny kicked with tariffs.
Well, no, banking institutions were rising in the South. They were exporting cotton in crazy numbers, and the money was flowing in. Now, historically, New York is the finance center, but Birmingham and other cities in the South were suddenly rising with their own banks and their own banking institutions. And so the northern manufacturers, which, remember, had been bought by the people that owned and controlled the first and second banks of the United States. Remember, they took the deposits of the government and wrote themselves notes that they used to buy critical infrastructure and industry. And so the Society for Useful Manufacture, which was headquartered right here where I'm sitting, and founded by Alexander Hamilton, curiously enough, with loans from the first bank of the United States, had built all the forges and all the ironworks up here, none in the South. And so now when the South said, well, wait a minute, we can get our ironworks from other nations for a lot less than we can buy them from you, so we're going to import our machinery from France and from Germany and from England. And so the northern manufacturers went to Congress and said, hey, you got to stop these guys. So we need you to put a very strict tariff, raise the tariff rates on these imported goods. And the South went wild. And, that's what started it all,
that's what started it all.
Not slavery.
And then it kind of morphed into the, as they got tougher, Andrew, then they started to talk about leaving the Union.
That's right.
Right.
And, curiously, a lot of free blacks in the South fought on the side of the South, where we didn't have, I say we, I identify as a Southerner. The South did not have draft riots. What the South had were thousands of young men of all colors signing up to fight. What the North had to do was bomb New York City to get the people to register for the draft.
Which is what they did.
That's right.
It was a false flag.
Well, at any rate, in the South, the people of the South felt they were fighting for their rights and their homeland. They didn't feel like they were fighting for slavery and the continuation of slavery. They were fighting for the right of the South, of the states, to control their own destiny. And I guess if you really want to find the roots of that, you have to go to the nullification crisis in the days of Andrew Jackson, John C. Calhoun. I mean, that's, you're back in the 1850s, 1840s. And that's well before the Civil War. So, the roots of the Civil War, if you want to find them, you look at the marriage of Lenora, as quoted by Benjamin Disraeli. And at the marriage of Lenora, the head of the House of Rothschild put up a toast. He said, to the United States, I will divide it in half. half for you, Lionel, and half for you, James. Okay? And then the funding of the Civil War occurred just like that. Lionel funded one side, James funded the other. So I think the plan for eliminating state rule in favor of federal rule and putting a banking system in place, that was the real goal of the Civil War.
So whoever wins the war writes the textbooks.
That's right. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I guess if you want to get a true history, you have to go into the South and get the writings of the Southerners and compare them with the writings of the
How about that book? I've never read it. I haven't, and I've had it here for 10 years. Was something like The Real History of the United States with Howard Zinn? Or
Howard Zinn is a good writer.
Is he good?
He's good. Yeah.
I'll have to read that sometime.
Yeah. But if
the
you want to get
Civil War book, that'd be a good one to get for a kid if you could find a good one.
A good one. But The Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins.
But that's a hard read for a kid.
It is a hard read for a kid. But if you want to challenge your brother, this was again
the Secrets of the
read The Secrets of the Federal Reserve and The World Order, both by Eustace Mullins, and he'll draw the timeline for you in such a way that you can present it to your brother. Yes, the war between the states and the federal government had the end result of outlawing slavery. But the belief is, and I believe this, that it was on its way out anyway. The human capital is expensive, and having your slave put in quarters and being responsible for his upkeep. I mean, really, that system was on its way out. The mechanization of the South and the reliance upon manufacturing machinery to alleviate human labor was already falling into place.
So what do you think the motive is of why the people in power and the educational system...
What do you mean, making the world safe for democracy like that?
Oh, that's kind of a deal. So,
the real motive?
You can legitimize killing 500,000 Southerners because it was all about slavery.
Correct.
It was just a moral war, and we had to do it because we had to free the people.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to make the world safe for democracy.
Safe for democracy, and then you can do whatever you want to do, or safe for black people, so we'll just kill 500 white people. Whatever.
Yeah. Well, and believe me, post-Civil War,
500,000.
The black experience in the South and in the North, post-Civil War, was not good. It was, you're free. Yeah, free to do what? Starve? That's it's not a good place to leave someone. You had a circumstance before, and there were some cruel masters, but there were also some humane ones. And could you have eventually worked your way out of it in a more civilized fashion? Yes, you could have. And
you think?
Yeah, there were provisions in the Constitution for dealing with involuntary servitude. I mean, it was there, and eventually would have come about. But the suggestion that the war was fought for this reason, no, that's not accurate.
All right, it's about time to get out here. A couple more, and then we'll go. On the from Ron, with ridiculous taxes in New Jersey, Chris Christie, need I say more, and your man crush on Texas, why don't you make the state of Texas an honest woman and make the jump? Make the jump.
She won't have me.
That's right. Don't let that boy in here.
She insists I change my ways.
Oh, my God.
I'm too northern, I suppose. Yes, no. It won't be long. I'll be heading out of here, I assure you.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, and I've indicated, of course, New Jersey has adopted an exit tax now, for everyone that's leaving.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They tax you on the way out?
On the way out,
On the way in, on the way out?
No, you can come in for free.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, they'll even help you come in. But, boy,
How can you have an exit tax? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, is that lawful, legal, whatever the word is?
They made it lawful.
Did they?
That's right.
So what do they do exactly?
Just essentially, if you sell your property and you don't repurchase, you have to pay an excise tax.
Oh, I see. Clever.
You're putting up stakes. Yeah.
Clever, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe you can get away with that.
Yes, you can. And I don't know, it's relatively new, so no one has challenged it yet. But that might be the final kick in the butt on my way out.
Yeah.
I assure you, a great many people feel like I do, between property tax and income tax, and we are the highest taxed state in the nation and most densely populated state in the nation, and we have the most corrupt governmental institutions in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, the challenge, I think the biggest challenge with Texas, just so you read the fine print, is there's a lot of, how am I going to be kind here, but extreme right religious stuff here.
Yeah, no, that's
so
everywhere.
medical marijuana, that's
not
going to happen.
Yep.
The whole idea of just letting people be in gay marriage, not going to happen. So Texas has got,
Well, the Supreme Court could certainly take care of that.
Really?
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Any minute now.
Any minute now.
Oh,
that's right. That's coming up, isn't it?
That's right.
Yeah, it's coming up.
Yeah.
Because we got another.
And for me, it's simple because, and as much as I appreciate the religious views of those who are opposed, the Constitution provides for the unlimited right to contract. So you have a right to enter into a contract with any other person who's also of like mind and ability. That's it. So any law passed that impairs your right to enter into a contract is unconstitutional.
Is that right?
That is right.
So that would be a case with people of the same gender marrying and getting a contract.
Correct. Or let's say that I enter a contract with you to be your slave.
Really?
I will walk around on a chain.
Really?
You can put a chain on my neck. I'll walk around and, you'll tell me what to do, and I'll do that, whatever it is, for a certain period, and you'll pay me a certain amount, right? This is a contract. And, to the outside world, I'm a slave. But guess what? Slavery's not illegal in the United States.
It's not?
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Most people don't.
I didn't know that.
Slavery's perfectly legal, especially when it's a voluntary contract. It's involuntary servitude that is illegal, and I would argue that that's what the government puts us all into with its system of income tax. So, if there's anyone that's impairing my right to contract, it's the IRS, and certainly not religion shouldn't be allowed to do it. That's for sure.
So the challenge, though, with just doing your own contract, if two women or two men in any state, is that the state doesn't recognize it, and then you sometimes you can't do what you want to do?
Well, things that
is that the problem?
Yeah, things that are well established in marriage, right?
Right.
Like your right to act for the other person. So all of the things that you would have to do if you enter into a contract without the sanction of the government or the religion in this case,
the religion, right,
you would have to make separately. So I would have to give you a durable power of attorney. You'd have to give me a durable power of attorney. So that allows us to act for each other.
Oh, you can do it.
Yeah, right.
So there's ways around it.
Yeah, you'd have to go through and take every step. Put both of us on a bank account. Put both of us on a housing deed. Put all the things that are just normal and accepted at law. Wait, that's your partner, your significant other, your wife, your husband. Well, they're automatically entitled to these things. Now you'd have to spell each one out in a legal contract. Spell out what is okay between us, and that can easily be done.
It's not that difficult.
No, it's not.
It's just a piece of paper.
So and you know what? This is my daughter's view. So my eldest daughter is gay, and she's in Texas, and she's marrying her partner in the face of Texas, right? Like, she doesn't care, and I've taught her not to care.
You think?
Don't care. What? You love this person, and you want to marry this person, and your family unit, to me, I mean, if, and I did a movie about this subject, an affirmative act. Anybody who's got Netflix out there, Google my IMDb and look up affirmative act.
Affirmative act.
An affirmative act is about a woman who dresses up like a man.
Yeah.
With a fake mustache and short hair and perfectly looks like a man.
Yeah.
Marries another woman.
Yeah.
As a man.
Yeah.
Doesn't say to them, hey, I'm a man. Marries this woman, buys a house, raises her family. Now, by the time 4 years goes by, everyone looks at this family and says, what a perfect family. Look, a well-behaved little boy, a lovely home, everything's moral and upstanding and looks good. Everyone's, what big fans we are of this couple and their children. But suddenly, she comes out as a woman. And now the perfect family the day before is a terrible family today. So much so that the state authorities come and take the children. And right, that's what they would do. And the case is played out in court, in which my view of the Constitution holds up, and there's a happy ending all around, and there's a nice twist.
What a great
at the
story!
End of the movie.
Great story.
I would urge anyone who wants to support my financial endeavors, go on Netflix and rent An Affirmative Act.
An affirmative
act. Yeah, like what? What is your problem here? Until you knew I was a woman, everything was fine. Once you found out I'm a woman, suddenly you're, what, offended? What is your problem? You have real family issues between where men and women are married and their children are being raised in squalor. Go deal with those and leave my family alone.
So obviously you've studied this stuff. So your daughter, she's going to be able to do everything that they have anything at all.
Absolutely.
And just so you get creative with paperwork.
Well, you just have to do a lot more paperwork.
That's all.
That's all.
And then you can do whatever you want.
And try to let any law official in Texas tell them that they can't do what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Good luck with your daughter,
Good
right?
luck, yeah. And the Supreme Court would certainly be at the heart of this question because, the Supreme Court is the ultimate law of the land.
And so it all rests on this beautiful thing of the unlimited right to contract.
That's right.
Any law
Yep.
that prohibits one's right to contract with another person
is unconstitutional. If anything that we can do together is legal, well, then, hey, I have an unimpaired, unlimited right to contract. Anything government does to impair that right is unconstitutional.
Wow.
So if you and I agree to be partners in a particular endeavor, then the courts have to actually uphold our mutual rights. They can't rule against us. They have to uphold our mutual rights.
And any judge that would, he would just be struck down.
Appeal.
Appeal. Pretty cool, man.
It takes you 3 or 4 levels before you ever get any justice in our system.
Yeah. So do you think then that the gay people in this country wanting to get permission?
They shouldn't have to get permission.
Well, of course, but
you
think they're on the wrong track here? If they just understood what you just said the last 10 minutes, they wouldn't even care.
I'd be suing the hell out of them if I was gay. If they'd be trying to tell me I couldn't do what I have the constitutional right to do,
really?
There'd be a whole lot of suits because I would sue everybody. That's the only way you defend your rights in this nation. You don't complain. You go to court. That's how you defend.
All right, kid, it's always a joy to talk to you. Thanks so much. Have some fun.
Thank you.
And,
of course, for the record, I'm definitely hetero, man. I don't understand the gay lifestyle.
No, I understand.
Forgive me.
Me too.
I don't understand.
I don't get it, but hey, if people want to do it,
whatever makes your boat float. That's the libertarian view, and we should all take that view.
I understand. Yeah, me too. I'm not giving up girls. No way.
Yeah.
I'm not changing sides.
No way.
Okay, what's your phone number out there?
It's 800-468-2646.
800-468-2646. All right, Andrew, thanks a lot.
Thanks, brother.
See you soon. Thank you. We love you all very much. Sharon and I do. Thanks to Sharon for everything and to all Andrew's staff for keeping him all loaded up with sulfur and ready to go. We'll see you tomorrow with Dr. Richard Massey and Meridian Grace. If you have questions about your health, well, come on by and email us, Patrick@OneRadioNetwork.com. Patrick@OneRadioNetwork.com. Get your emails in right now. We'll get underway tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock Central Time.
Broadcasting from the beautiful Hill Country in Texas, this is OneRadioNetwork.com.